Hello everyone, Sukkot is soon upon us, so let's get going. Now, we know that Sukkot is actually referred to as Zman Simchatenu, right, the time of our joy. And also throughout the Mishnah of the Gemara, whenever we refer to Sukkot, it actually just calls it HaChag, right, the Chag. Now, this first question is actually asked by Rav Bernstein with Zman Simchatenu in his Tshuva Sefer. But his question is, why do we call this Chag with all Chags, Zman Simchatenu, the time of our joy? Does that apply to all of our Chags? Like after all, we have Pesach, which is Zman Cheritenu, the time we were redeemed from Egypt as slaves. Sounds pretty enjoyable and joyous, right? Or Shavuot, like the time we got the Torah. That sounds like, the peak of Simcha. That's the highest you could get. So why specifically is Sukkot called Zman Simchatenu? Why is that HaChag, the Chag? Why? That's his question. By way of answer, he actually quotes Rav Hutner's explanation. Before we go there, let's take a step back. What are we celebrating on Sukkot? When we step inside the Sukkah and we're celebrating for 7 days, what are we commemorating? That is actually Machloket Tanaim. That goes back probably 2,000 years, maybe longer, but at least that, between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Eliezer, right? Rabbi Eliezer was Rabbi Akiva's Rebbe. Rabbi Elazar was Rabbi Akiva's Talmud. Fine? So right now it's Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Akiva says that it's to commemorate the sukkahs that the Jews sat in after they were redeemed from Egypt, while we were in the desert. Fine. Rabbi Eliezer says, no, he says not no, but he says it's to commemorate the clouds of glory that were with the Jews in the desert. Now, about Rabbi Akiva's opinion, yeah? And it's to commemorate the sukkahs that the Jews lived in. The Tur asks a classic question that when you hear it, you're like, why did I not think of it? If that's true, that's why we're commemorating Sukkot, then why are we celebrating it in Tishrei and not back in Nisan with Pesach? While we're celebrating Pesach, we should also be celebrating Sukkot, right? Just as Pesach is commemorating our Exodus, so too, seemingly once we left, we were in the desert. When in the desert, we're living in Sukkot. So too should we be celebrating Sukkot. Same thing. The Tur answers, here's the thing. When's Pesach? It's in the spring. What do people do in the spring? Usually after the winter weather, they're pretty excited to see the sun and to have warm weather. So they leave their houses and go outside and maybe build themselves like a porch or a patio or a gazebo. They effectively do the same things as building Sukkot effectively. So if that's true, then people won't realize that when the Jews go out to sing their sukkahs, that we're doing it for the Shema mitzvah, right? We're doing it for the mitzvah. As such, we delay it all the way to Tishrei. Once fall begins, it starts to become cooler. People are usually leaving outside and coming more indoors. That's when the Jews go, like, no, we're going outside. We have a mitzvah to sit in sukkahs. That's the Torah's answer. Fine. But how does that relate to, say, Rabbi Eliezer, right? He says it's the clouds of glory. So why don't we just, why have it in Tishrei, right? What's the relevance? When did the clouds of glory come to protect the Jews? When we're in the desert. Not when we were, not back in Tishrei. What's that commemorating? So here we see the beginnings of the answer of why it is that Sukkot is called the Zman Simchatenu. Because really, it's celebrating two Chagim at the same time. What is it? On a Deoraita level, on a biblical level, we have two sets of Chagim. We have the Regalim, Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot, and the Yamim Norai, right, which we just went through, Rosh Hashanah, and Yom Kippur. Amazingly, Sukkot comes to celebrate, Sukkot is the third Chag of both sets. You have Pesach, Shavuot, and then Sukkot, and then you have Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. And that's the main difference. That's the root of the machloket between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Eliezer. Which one is primary? Lefi Rabbi Akiva, right? You have it because, we just exited Egypt and we are living in sukkahs in the desert. It's a regel. So you have Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. That's a regular holiday. Rabbi Eliezer says no. Why are we celebrating it in Tishrei? Because when do we get first? When we had the clouds of glory, which is true, when we left Egypt, yeah, when did we lose them? Once we did the Chet HaEgel, yeah? When did we regain them? After we received Kapara on Yom Kippur. When were the clouds of glory finally restored? The 15th of Tishrei. That's the first day of Sukkot, right? So we see, Lefi Rabbi Eliezer, Sukkot is actually a culmination of the Yamim Norai. That's why it's HaChag. This is the Chag. It's the third Chag for both sets. right? It's Zman Simchatenu. We're celebrating both things. Amazing. So that's what's going on in Sukkot. That's why it's Zman Simchatenu. Rabbi Bernstein really lights our eyes here. So, moving on. Sukkah, right? Well, what other themes do we have in Sukkot? So Rav Bernstein goes on to say that, I mean, after all, it's in his Tshuva Sefer. What's it doing in here? We just went through Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot. Totally different. Answer is no. So just as on Yom Kippur, we learned to devalue the physical, right? We didn't eat, we didn't drink, yeah, we didn't wear our leather shoes, we effectively abstained from physical living. Yeah, so too, Sukkot comes to help us ingrain that message into our lives, right? We abandon our safer homes with good roofs, and we go to the Sukkah, which can rattle a bit in the wind, right? Which is obviously vulnerable to rain, right? The roof isn't perfect. The schach is actually, like, halachically speaking, things should be able to seep through. So there we see we're effectively moving from physical out into the spiritual. And Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch actually makes a point of saying this. Like, we have this almost dual message in Sukkot, amazingly, which I'll also bring on Rav Bernstein. So the Sukkah, we effectively say that physical things are not important. But then Rav Hirsch points out, well, this is in the Chorev, by the way. I personally think the most amazing part of the whole Chorev, which is like 500 pages long, is his whole all this prakim on Sukkot. They're incredible. I highly recommend you read it. It was written, I think, originally in German, actually, and then it was translated into English. Into Hebrew, and then someone else translated it into English. I read the English one. It's amazing. Go look it up. So on Sukkot, on the one hand, right, we're moving out into the Sukkah, which kind of devalues the physical. But then Rav Hirsch says, amazingly, you have a mitzvah deoraita for men to actually purchase the arba minim, right? He actually has to own it. He can't just get it from his friend to borrow. That's much less of an issue on the other days. On the first day of Sukkot, you have a mitzvah deoraita to wave the lulav. All 7 days only existed back in temple days, right? That's when it was 7 days. Now, only 1 day universally. Right? Everything else is derabbanan. For that first day, it's extremely important for a person to own his arba minim. Now, what's going on here? We were just told that physical possessions don't matter, right? Who cares? It's just like physical, it's material. We're moving in the sukkah. The answer is no. When it comes to just like stam physical possessions, those don't matter, right? However, when it comes to spiritual acquisitions, and here's what Rav Bernstein says, is Yom Kippur emphasizes how we're supposed to downplay our physical actions, right? What we do. Yom Kippur comes in, and the Arba Minim come in to implement this program into what we own as well, right? What do we own? We own the Arba Minim, right? There's a special idea of having a pre-etz hada, right? A beautiful etrog and a beautiful Arba Minim in general. Like, they're supposed to be nice. Why? Since when do we talk about beautifying things? That's not important. The answer is, it is important, because there's a deep message here. What do you take care to beautify? What do you take pride in, right? That's one of the goals of having a beautiful Arba Minim. To show the things that we take pride in are our spiritual acquisitions, are our mitzvahs. That's what matters, right? That's effectively that is one of the messages that Sukkot is trying to ingrain in us. That's not only what we do, but it's also what we own. When we have physical possessions, when we go out to buy something, right? What's the purpose of this? Is that so that this physical possession should serve us and help us in our avoda, right, in serving Hashem? Or is it that we effectively really end up serving the possession? We don't really want or need the possession. We just want it because we want it, because other people think that we should have it, right? So here, we go from Yom Kippur into Sukkot, so we show what's really out and important in life in terms of what we own as well. Hopefully that idea was understandable and relatable. Feel free to ask me questions. Chag Sameach, and see you next time.